was acquisition of a rail line. 20 years ago, voters in Santa Cruz County passed Proposition 116, which was a bond measure. The state of California passed it on a 60% margin to purchase and rehabilitate rail lines. And there was money specifically in that for the purchase of the 31-mile rail line that runs from Davenport to Watsonville. 10 years ago, the Regional Transportation Commission began to seriously study it, and over 10 years they've spent $2.3 million. They've looked at the environmental issues, the legal issues, the business management issues, and the clock was ticking that we had to get this under contract by June 30th, 2010, or we would not be able to get the money. Now, you would still pay for those bonds. You just wouldn't get anything for that money. So I aggressively sought to get the Regional Transportation we were paying a negotiator for 10 years, and we haven't been able to close a deal. I said, if we're paying somebody, they should be coming to every one of our meetings. They should be telling us what they're doing. That managed to move forward with the rail line owner, Union Pacific, was then made aware that there was a timeline of this, and the money that we were proposing to buy the rail line was going to go away. That got them in gear, and on the very last day that the California Transportation Commission could approve the funding, they did so. This is after our Regional Transportation Commission took a unanimous vote to seek the money, and they did it with conditions, and we had to fulfill those conditions. There were 5 conditions. I won't go through all of them, but they basically had to prove that the appraisal that we had for the property was good. We did 3 over a number of years. They've all generally been the same. But on January 1st, the California Transportation Commission staff and Caltrans staff had a negative recommendation. And when we called to ask why, they said, we don't like your appraisal. Well, we did 3 appraisals. We used appraisers that Caltrans had used for various projects. So we began inquiring to the CTC committee, the California Transportation Commission members, what the issues was. They all said it's Caltrans. You got to move Caltrans. Moving Caltrans is like moving a mountain. They're not a very flexible or inclusive group of people. But we asked for a meeting with the director of Caltrans, and I went up with my colleague, Supervisor Mark Stone, who's also chair of the Regional Transportation Commission, and we met with Caltrans staff and CTC staff, and for 45 minutes we argued about the appraisal. And the question always came back, what is wrong with our appraisal? After 45 minutes, the director of the right-of-way for Caltrans admitted that he hadn't actually read our appraisal. So he was telling us that our appraisal was bad, but he hadn't actually read it, nor did he answer the question. This was an amazing moment and so we said, listen, we've spent 10 years and lots of money doing this. The community is broadly supportive of it. Hundreds of people have come out. Our commission voted unanimously in favor of it. We had support from the business community, the labor community, the environmental community, the transportation community. Neighborhood groups were in favor of it. Loads of people and lots of organizations. And so the Caltrans director looked at us and said, we'll need to call you in the morning. And the next morning she called up and said, well, we're going to move from negative to neutral, and that was on a Friday. On Monday she called up and said, we're moving from neutral to support. And on Tuesday she called up and said she was going to personally call California Transportation Commission members and advocate for the purchase of this. Well, that was very helpful. Yeah. California Transportation Commission staff still were neutral on it. They had finally moved from negative to neutral. And the day that the California Transportation Commission was to decide this, January 19th, we went up there prepared to make our presentation. It was clear in the discussion that the commission was having that we were asking for $14.85 million. That would include the purchase of the line and the final engineering and closing costs. It was clear that they wanted to give us about $14.2 million. And they went back and forth for a while, and finally, one of the commissioners that I reached out to, Joe Tavoloni from Riverside, asked if someone from Union Pacific was in the audience. There were 200 people in the audience that day. Some poor soul raised his hand. He asked him to come up to the microphone, and when he did, Joe Tapoloni said, listen, we would like to do this deal, and we're about $650,000 short. Do you think you could lower your price? Now I was amazed. I've been going to meetings for a long time. I'd never seen anybody do that in a public meeting. And the only thing that was more amazing than that was when the guy from Union Pacific said, all right, we'll take it down $300,000. And I thought, wow, this is pretty good. And Joe says, I was thinking more like 5. Could you do 5? And the guy from Union Pacific said, $400,000. Then Joe looked over to us. Now we were prepared that we had some idea that they may not fully fund it, and we had already been thinking about where we might get the funding to make up the difference. The chair, we huddled for a moment. The chair of the Regional Transportation Commission, Mark Stone, went up and said, we'll find the last bit of money. And with that, the 40 people would come from Santa Cruz on train to get to be there, went into applause. The other 150 people were there, also started applauding, and then something I've never seen, the Transportation Commission also started applauding. So you could go to meetings for a long time and not see anything like that. It was pretty amazing. So